Kari Fulton joins me in our Washington studios. She's a global environmental justice advocate. Kari, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin with what's going on with the conference COP24 in Poland. One of the reasons this is such a big deal is that we're going to see and hear how various countries are taking action to follow through on their commitments. How wide is the gap between what they have promised to do and what they've actually done?
I think that it ranges from country to country, and I think some countries may have had more progressive, like the United States, we may have had more progressive leadership at the time of the Paris climate agreements, so we may have created these ideas of what we wanted to do, and we may not be moving towards that as fast as we could. But I think if we're able to come back to the international table, maybe we can work on that. And I think part of it is that different countries are seeing more more activity from their actual constituents. So it's the people that are going to make the difference more so than even government policies, I think.
How important is funding and resources when it comes to battling climate change? Some of the most vulnerable countries are actually developing countries, and they need help from richer countries.
It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue, especially when you're talking about countries that were not there to create the problem, that they were not in leadership when that problem really created. So we need technology transfer. We need these bigger countries to come out and say, hey, we want to help you transition from coal, from dirty energy, to these more sustainable resources. And that is possible. I think that there are some countries like China that are looking at ways that they can globally support other countries in transitioning, but it's going to take some work.
While China and Europe have said they are committed to meeting their targets, the U.S., of course, as we've been hearing, plans to withdraw. And Brazil has suggested it too might pull out of this agreement. How significant is that?
This is the worst time to have the presidents that we have in Brazil and in America when we have about 10 years, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, to really address global climate change, or else we're not going to be able to do anything about it. So you have a lot of young people, especially people who aren't even old enough to vote, who are saying, hey, step it up. We need this for our futures.
And we saw in Jim's piece, we've seen report after report really spelling out dire consequences when it comes to climate change, extreme conditions, damaging infrastructure, ecosystems, health, and the U.S. economy. And the President of the United States, as we heard, says he doesn't believe it. What is your message to him and, many politicians like him who take a similar position?
I would say check the weather. Climate change is not fake news.
But every time it's cold, he in fact tweeted about something like this, like we're experiencing, frigid temperatures so much for, of course, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he equated one with another, which is not connected.
And it's not connected at all. And that itself is fake news. The way that we talk about climate change has to change so that people understand that just because it's cold today, just because we have an extreme snowstorm in March, does not necessarily mean that climate change isn't real or that global warming doesn't exist. There are so many different levels. It's just like having a flu. You might be really hot and you might have chills at the same time.
So your message to the president would be, besides check the weather, maybe do your research?
Yeah, I would say read a book, a science book.
Kari Fulton, thank you so much.